After a 4-year hiatus, Eminem returned with a new album, stirring up a wave of controversy that may have reminded us without a shadow of a doubt of the time when we first saw a white rapper with oxidized hair. Right off the bat, the title The Death of Slim Shady suggests a transformation. Is Eminem saying goodbye to his alter ego, or is this just a new chapter? Let's find out. From the very beginning of his career, Marshall Mathers created an image of a person with two personalities, Eminem and his crazy alter ego, Slim Shady. So far, Marshall has created pieces that we could attribute to one of his personalities. Eminem talked about serious topics, his difficulties in life, or his drug problems, while Slim Shady partook in controversy, making fun of celebrities and testing the boundaries of what is lyrically acceptable in music. But this time, for the first time, we can experience these two personalities simultaneously in a constant tumultuous dialogue, which is the narrative for Marshall's newest disc. The first half of the album is classic Slim Shady, who rises from the grave and takes control of Marshall, insults whomever he can, and seems to be having a great time in the process. At the same time, Eminem tries to stop Shady by suggesting that his behavior is immature and childish, accusing Slim of hypocrisy and being a mental 13-year-old. Many people enthusiastically proclaim that this album brings back the old Slim Shady, who doesn't give a fuck about everything and everyone, but these people completely miss the whole point of this album and its concept. The mature Eminem cares and disagrees with Shady, who in his opinion says all these things just to stir up some controversy and excite 13-year-old boys. How cursory the majority of listeners nowadays approach music listening is perfectly demonstrated by the fact that many people, after listening to the very first song on the album, claim that Eminem disses rappers such as Kendrick Lamar, Kanye West, Lil Wayne, and Joyner Lucas in it. All because of the verses in which Eminem raps. Now let's travel inside the mind of a hater, cause I don't see no fans. All I see is a bunch of complainers. Kendrick's album was cool, but it didn't have any bangers. Wayne's album or Yee's, couldn't tell you which one was lamer. Joyner's album was corny. Shady's new shit is way worse. Everything is either too tame or there's too much anger. I didn't like the beat, so I hated might delete later. People completely ignored the first line, which gives M's entire statement a completely different context. So since so many people have trouble catching such an obvious message of Marshall's verses, one can guess that a full house will not follow M's words about listening to the album in a certain order, since the whole thing forms a single coherent story and thus will not understand the essence of this project. So let's now look at this album as a whole. In my opinion, based on the skits that give the whole story a narrative, we can divide this album into 3 parts. The first begins when Shady rises from the grave in the song Renaissance and abducts Eminem by tying him up and trying to drug him. This part is classic Shady insulting everyone around him and having no inhibitions, as evidenced by the fact that he insults blind or deaf people. This part ends with the skit All You Got, where Shady reproaches Marshall that without him he would be nothing, which is why he will never get rid of him, as he is all he got. The second part, which starts with the song Lucifer, is already a peak of Shady's exploits, who throws such verses that one of them was censored, even the uncensored version of the album. This part ends with the song Houdini, which was the first single from the album. Here we get a skit with a ringing Paul, which is obviously reminiscent of Ema's classic albums, and the whole piece is obviously meant to be reminiscent of Without Me. There is a plot twist here with the track Guilty Conscience 2, which is led by the skit Breaking News. This song is, of course, a reference to the classic hit from the Slim Shady LP, but this time, instead of Dr. Dre, a mature Eminem plays the role of Conscience. The song is a frantic dialogue between Shady and Eminem, which ends with the latter shooting Slim. However, after this, Eminem wakes up and calls Paul, telling the whole story as if it was just a dream. In response, Paul tells Marshall to fuck himself, after which we hear laughter. Could this mean that the dream was only the part where Marshall shot Slim, and Shady is in fact still alive? After Guilty Conscience 2, we move on to the last part of the album, in which we get some tracks with more serious and important themes. The most buzzed about tracks were, of course, Temporary and Somebody Save Me, in which Eminem addresses Haley and other people close to him in a very emotional way. In this part, we also get the skit Guess Who's Back, which turns out to be the return of Ken Kenneth, which for many Eminem fans probably brought quite a smile to their faces. Personally, however, I find the latter part of the album somewhat lacking in coherence with the story Marshall outlined in the first two parts. In a way, it is sort of a separate entity for me. I wonder if this is a conscious effort, or if Marshall didn't quite have an idea of how to wrap up the whole story, while still wanting to find a place on the album for those valuable tracks. Or maybe I'm just missing something here. Let us know what you think in the comments. Certainly one has to appreciate the fact that despite a long career full of success and no need to prove anything, Eminem decided to record such a polished and conceptually interesting album. Also on the production side, in my opinion, this is by far Marshall's best album in many years. Of course, there will be many people who will complain at the same time without giving this album enough time and attention to fully understand it, but I think this album is what every true Eminem fan has been waiting for a long time. But enough from me. I want to hear from you guys. After you've given the Death of Slim Shady a listen, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Did Slim really die, or is he immortal now? And if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button and subscribe for more future content. Catch you in the next video. Peace.